It is Wednesday evening, and that means it's time for another Auburn Family Night. This is the show that is dictated and, in a way, produced by you, but especially for you, the Auburn family. This is a show all about you, your calls, your comments, and your questions on our live call-in Auburn Family Night. Let's get into it right now. War Eagle Auburn family and a special War Eagle, and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of the E2C network family. Thank you so much for being here. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, however you got here, whenever you got here, thanks for being here and being part of our family. As is always the case on Wednesday evenings, we love to get together with you, the Auburn family, and talk about what is on your mind related to all things Auburn. As I said at the start of the show, this show is about you and anything you want to discuss. So we will bounce around to 1,000 different topics tonight, but especially we will all be closely monitoring during this show as it is happening live at this moment, how Auburn men's golf is currently doing in the NCAA championship match versus Florida State. So I don't want you all to worry. We will be monitoring that. We will be talking about that. So if that's what you're most interested in this evening, do not fear. That will be covered here because, as we love to say here, if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. I want to encourage you to do a couple of different favors for me, just some favors for me. As you're coming into the stream, live on the replay, smash the like button. If you feel like we've earned it, if you don't feel like we have, I understand, but that is obviously an ask that we would have of you. We'd love for you also to let us know that you're here. Get started in the chat, especially if you're live. Drop a comment on the replay. Let us know what you want to talk about, what's on your mind. Say hello to us with a War Eagle. Maybe even check in with us where you're watching from. You can also go ahead and get in line to be a part of the show if you're interested in doing that using our call-in link brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. Please visit them for a place that you can stay when you come to Auburn, not just to visit Auburn, but to have a great Auburn experience. So the phone lines are open now. We will be taking those in a little bit. So just stand by if you are getting in line to take part in that call-in show. And we're going to bounce around to 1,000 different things this evening. Let me do what I call setting the table. Obviously, we are all focused right now on what is happening out in Carlsbad, California. I have a feeling that if it doesn't go Auburn's way, you'll see a bunch of very petty fans, especially from across the state, but Florida State fans that'll pop in here and go ha ha and all those things. So let's hope it doesn't turn out that way. But we're talking about what we know right now in the moment is that they're in competition, tied 2 matches with one tied match. You win best out of 5 matches takes the championship. So right now Auburn is in position to potentially do that. However, I would say it does. FSU's current, as of this very second, standing looks a lot more secure than Auburn's. It's not by much, but I would say they're in a much better comfort level position with where we're at as a golf performance today. We'll see how it all shakes out. One is still a tie. That will probably be the deciding factor. And interesting things that we're all so focused on men's golf right now. Not because you shouldn't be, but because it's happening live right now during our show and for a potential first national championship for either team. But for our purposes, Auburn. So that's on the table. We can talk about the football team. The transfer portal has closed. That means that rosters are quote unquote set. Be careful with that. You never can tell these days, is this how everything's going to look? We did get an update on how Brian Battie is doing. It is one of those, based on what we have been able to gather together from media reports, from what coaches said, that is encouraging in the sense that it seems like the prognosis has become more positive in the survival mode, but the effects of that seem to be more long-term than we were all hoping and praying for it wouldn't be. Obviously, we can talk about that a little bit. Want to be very sensitive to the family and not dive into that a ton today. I'm trying to think about what else has happened. We got a new transfer from for basketball. All of that is a fair game as well. Seems like the roster might be set. Plenty of news is still dropping day and night. But of course, I know right now we are focused on men's golf. And in an update, we are still in a 2-2-1 tie, technically, if that makes sense to you. Obviously, we're sending out prayers to the Batee family, specifically Brian, but of course the family, because of all that they have been going through. Let's see here. If the new college football game, this is from Unbeaten Lake, says uses Tiger Rags for our touchdowns and not War Eagle, I may be a little disappointed. I believe what Unbeaten Lake here is referring to is in previous games, they were not able to get the rights to War Eagle and thus use Tiger Rag, which is obviously very prominent for Clemson. LSU uses it, I believe. Missouri probably uses. Everybody who's got a Tiger probably uses it. But I believe that's more on Auburn than it would be on NCAA game. It's a good thing to bring up because if we're bringing this video game back to the forefront and trying to do this one right, you would hope there would be no expense. What's the quote from the Jurassic Park character? Not the actor, yes, but we spared no expense. Hopefully, no expense, no legal issues will be a problem of bringing the authenticity that we all desire as Auburn fans, but especially college football fans in general, to every aspect of this game that you can, namely for your specific team, for our purposes, all things Auburn. So that's obviously out there. I always thought that song was called Hold That Tiger, or not Tiger Rags. And I could be mistaken. Maybe that's two different songs, but I believe it's not Tiger Rags. I think it's Tiger Rag. It's Hold 'em Tiger, Hold 'em Tiger. If I'm not mistaken, we should be getting more gameplay footage for NCAA in the next few days. Maybe so. Can I encourage you, 313, to work with me to start calling it college football 25, not NCAA 25. There's going to be people that harp on that. It's a problem for me too, but it's something we're going to all have to get used to. In some ways, it'll always be NCAA football to us. But as much as we all hate on the NCAA, you'd think we want to change that and start getting used to that. All right, we have got our first caller tonight, so we're going to get him in here, and he's one of our regulars. You know him, you'll love him, Captain Optimism. Mr. Kevin, how's it going, sir?
Hey, we will win the golf championship.
I hope so, buddy. I hope so. Just an update for you right now. Still tied 2-2-1, meaning they have 2 points. We have 2 points, and there is one match in a tie. So we are in position to potentially win it. We're not in a really bad situation, but still plenty of golf to be played. Hope you're right.
I think Cam Coleman will have 29 touchdowns.
I can't remember last week if it was 27, 28, or 29, but I feel like every time I talk to you, Kevin, it's going up.
Yeah, it's going up.
It's going up. If your optimism continues to propel him forward, then I will concede that to you. I think it's a little bit out there, but hey, I love the optimism though.
And I have Brandon Frazier with 28 too.
You've got Brandon Frazier with 28 touchdowns?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's probably a big step out there. Now, if you told me Rivaldo Fairweather, who is the primary tight end target, I would say, okay, I could walk with you there. It's still very lofty, but
he can score touchdowns too.
He absolutely can. I would say your assumptions about who would even get close to that number are better with Rivaldo. Not because I don't think Brandon Frazier's a great tight end and I don't love having him, but I think he's just going to get Brandon Frazier will not get near enough throws to he. I think he'll have a great year if he gets 28 throws to him, not just 28 touchdowns.
I think the second leading touchdown catcher will be Bryce Kane.
Bryce Kane, so one of the Freeze 5, the exciting new wide receiver group. I love that you're throwing some love to him. A lot of people are excited about Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson, but they're forgetting about
Bryce
Kane and all them. So I love you throwing shout outs to them.
And Perry Thompson there yet?
I believe he is on campus. I think there was a
He
social media
said-
post put out there that he is on campus.
They said, I'm getting ready to work.
Yeah, yes, he did. And I think we all are hoping that work is going to amount to a much, much improved wide receiver year, but
I
only
still
time will
think
tell.
Peyton Thorne be the starting quarterback.
Oh, you don't even need to think it. It is that Peyton Thorne is your starting quarterback, and that will not
The running
change
back will be
for any time soon. Say that
Jaquez.
again. Say that one more time.
The running back be Jaquez Hunter.
Yeah, it looks like it. Obviously, and not to make any light of what's going on with Brian Petit, that changes up the running back room a little bit, but you still have Jarquez, Damari, and Jeremiah Cobb. And
But
again, when I say this, let me preface this by saying this. I want to be very clear that I am not in any way saying this is a good thing that we're talking about it this way, but Jeremiah Cobb will get more time for those of you that wanted that. And that's not how we want it to happen, but there it is.
how about Sean Jackson?
Sean Jackson will probably, that's a great point. He'll probably get some more time too, now that a spot has essentially opened up, unfortunately. We'll need somebody to pick up some carries.
I still think we get a running back in the 2025 class.
In the 25 class, assuredly. Assuredly.
Alvin Henderson.
Alvin Henderson, maybe. Now he is committed to Penn State, but obviously he's in Alabama as a high schooler. So Alabama, right? I believe he's in Elba, I think is where he is.
Yeah,
Elba. So we still got a shot. Anytime there's a home state kid, you always want to keep working on him. You never know, especially now that he sees maybe things have opened up a little bit. I want to point out something to other Auburn fans, and I don't mean this to say that the kid made a wrong decision, but it's just one of those things you never know. So if you're afraid of competition, everybody will remember Jamarian Burnett. He was committed for a time and he decommitted, and I understood why at the time, because nobody was leaving this year and the room was going to be pretty full.
Yeah.
But here we are, unfortunately, with Brian not being able to play, most likely, and he could have had some playing time. So you just never know. Take a chance and see how things work out.
He's free says he's improving every day.
He said he's improving every day, talking about Brian. He did, and there was a report out from court documents from a media site that said that they are expecting him to have more permanent damage. About I don't want to go into the extent that is, because I don't know that for a fact, but I don't know that we're going to see Brian back out on the field this year, which in the grand scheme of things is not the most important thing right now. The fact that he is still alive as of right now and what we know, that's all we can ask for.
Who do you think take his spot in the kickoff return?
Jeremiah. I mean, I think, they're very speedy backs. We've also got a lot of young talent coming in that probably want to take a shot at getting out on the field. So who knows? It could be a plethora of people that want to get their shot at playing anywhere, even on a kickoff team. So obviously, I think what this speaks to about Brian is the fact that his loss, in essence, out on the field is showing you how important he was to this team, because we're talking about what happens on kickoff return, who is going to fill his spot in the running back room. I mean, these are not the most important thing is that he is to this date alive and in some ways okay. But we have implications to talk about with the team. So there's that.
I think our defense will be real good.
I agree. I think they're going to do a lot better than a lot of people expect them to, but we'll see how all the new pieces work together,
Yeah, they might shut out some people too.
If they do, that'll be a good sign, and hopefully it'll be some of those teams that you're supposed to do really well against, like Alabama A&M and teams like that.
Against Georgia, we need to beat Georgia this year.
If we shut out Georgia, we will win the game, but that ain't going to happen in Athens. I love the optimism, though. I got time for one more question or comment. What you got?
The you think Robert Woodard get to play some?
He should. I mean, he's played every year in some capacity.
Yeah,
Didn't have as much last year. I think he's sitting behind some players that are very good and very valuable to us. He's not going to start this year outside of injuries, or he just wins it
we
out in
still got
practice. But he'll be there.
Jason Jones.
Jason Jones is still here. Yes, he is still here. All right, Mr. Wow, I'm so
After
Kevin. Sorry.
You see me next Wednesday, we be the national champs.
I hope so. I hope when we're talking next week, you and I are celebrating a national championship. Good call, my friend.
I was streaming last night.
I bet you were. I think I heard you all the way over here.
Yeah.
All right. Good to talk to you, my friend. Thanks for calling in.
War Eagle. Bye.
War Eagle. Bye. All right. That was Kevin. That's one of our regular callers. Thanks to him for getting us started tonight. You can take it in the phone lines too. Hit the link at the top of the chat here on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, obviously you'll have to come over here to access that. You can be on camera or off camera. It doesn't matter. He likes to be on camera. Some people like to be off camera. It can just be your voice. Whatever you want to do, call in now. Would love to hear anybody's thoughts about this golf match and how you think it's going to shake out. I'll give you an update right now. We are at 8:16 Eastern time. It is still a 2-2-1 setup, meaning 2 points for Florida State, 2 points for Auburn, 1 tie. It's fairly equal in how secure those individual matches that are a point for FSU and for Auburn are currently. That tie is the last group of the day, J.M. Butler for us, and they're holding on pretty strong to that tie. It's pretty incredible how long they're, that tie has been holding strong throughout the match right now. So I think we're going down to the wire. All right. What comments, what questions, what topics do you want to talk about? Mr. John is an Alabama fan, as we always like to remind our Alabama people. You are welcome to hang out here. Again, it fascinates me that you're here, but as long as you behave yourself and provide productive, constructive, and meaningful contributions to the conversation. But welcome to you here if you want to be here consuming Auburn content. But I always want to challenge all Alabama fans too. If you want to call in, be my guest. Let's hear from you. Those of you that were asking where you can watch the national championship, currently it is on the Golf Channel. I don't mean this to be rude, but duh. You probably didn't know that there was a Golf Channel. I am not a golf fan in general, meaning I just don't consume it like others do, nor do I play it. I wish I had the time, the money to do so. I think I would probably like it, but it's just not in my repertoire right now. But when it's all things Auburn related, you know that I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it here. So anything that you guys want to talk about around that, if you have questions about what's going on with the match, how we got here to this point, again, I'm not an expert on it, but we can certainly talk about that if you want to come on the show and give these guys a shout out, because here's the important thing to remember. And I know this sounds, moral victory type of things, and Auburn's in position to win potentially here in this match. But the fact that Auburn is here at this point is just a feat in of itself. They've been number one most of the year. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that, and they're number one currently. Their seeding is different than how they were ranked. That's based on how they performed in the postseason and stuff like that. But it's pretty interesting to watch how all this has transpired and following it through the postseason. It's made a very, I think it's fair to say, lackluster. Well, not all lackluster, but a lot of the big three, football, baseball, not meeting our expectations this year, making it a lot better. The way the women and men golf have performed, an equestrian national SEC championship, volleyball continuing to just make those steps forward. We've had a lot of good things. Tennis as well has had some really good things. So they've really helped us get over the hump, so to speak, in what we've been dealing with. So Unbeaten Lake brought this up. I know someone who is working on the plans for the renovation in the north end zone. It sounds like they are planning to add 7,000 seats. We had a question about this on our TikTok. And if you were following us on social media today, you saw I drove through Auburn to see if the construction on the north end zone had started. Again, it's May 29th for those of you that are watching this in the future. And nothing has started yet. I took a thorough, you obviously don't need a trash pass and go through the gates, but I did a thorough look from my vantage point, and I didn't see anything to me that looked like progress was being made yet, but they did say summer of this year is when it begins. The other point that I want to bring up based on your comment is we had a question during our TikTok, or on the TikTok we put out today about that they wanted, everybody's so focused on the expansion part of this that they're missing what this was about. A lot of people saw new scoreboard. Why aren't they doing expansion? And if you actually take the time to not just react to headlines, like a lot of people have, not Unbeaten Lake or anybody here, but I've seen it a lot, you will read that they specifically spell out in the announcement for this that this is being done in such a way to plan for future expansion. So what you may be referring to, if your person is in the know, that talking about how many more seats may be added eventually. But this is like think of this as a phase one of a multi-year project, quote unquote, expansion. It begins with expanding that concourse, creating more supports for the new scoreboard, pushing that back, I'm sure, a little bit to create space for those maybe eventual new seats. So if you are worried about expansions, I understand that, but those are coming. They have said as much without saying as much in press releases, in questions that have been asked about it. They know people want more seats, but let me bring this to your attention, folks. If you're not selling out the stadiums, you don't need more seats. And by and large, we're doing a pretty bang up job of that, but not everyone's a sellout. So if you want more seats, buy the tickets, get your butts in the seats, and then you will see that come to fruition. All right. I know I missed probably some comments here. Let's see here. Interesting with the Alabama talk here. 313 Edit says, I played golf a lot and watched the PGA Tour a little, but had no idea there was a golf channel. That, I think that takes away your golf card. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know how you can have a golf card and not know that there's a golf channel. Let's just be honest. Speaking of which, Auburn is doing a bang up job. It seems like in creating a cushion for itself in the two matches where they are winning currently, meaning their distance they're creating from their opponent is really starting to increase currently. Both of those are through 12 holes and 10 holes and 12 holes respectively. The last group is the one that is tied and is looking like it's going to be the all-important one. So you want to talk about pressure? It's here. And that's on J.M. Butler. Let me give you a little bit of insight maybe about him. I believe we're talking about a guy who's a class senior. Yes. I thought he had been around here for a while. So seniority, experience, will it matter? We're about to find out. John asks, what are your thoughts on Hugh Freeze at the moment? What do you mean? Like, it's a very big, broad question. Are you just saying like, I mean, I could go 1,000 different ways with that. Are you heading a certain direction, wanting a certain perspective? Give me a little bit more insight on what you mean by that, and I can maybe head that way. I need a little bit more direction than that. I think you'll find by most reasonable people, they're pretty pleased right now. If you're not someone that is pleased with the understanding of what's been going on with this program, then you're going to be a little bit unrealistic in your expectations and understandings of things. CJ says, I've never watched golf until today, but War Eagle, orange and blue, no matter what. The way we say it here, and if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So that's what we said. All right. So John was asking, what is your thoughts on Hugh Freeze at the moment? I asked for some clarification. He said talent evaluation and offensive scheme. Well, to be fair, let's talk about talent evaluation. And I assume what he is getting at here is asking about what kind of recruits are we bringing in and how are they working out on the field? I think that's probably a fair way he's wanting me to go with that part of it. Hugh Freeze has had a big selling point for himself be his ability to recruit historically and bring in the talent that it takes to be a prominent program and maybe compete for a national championship. He's done that a lot of different places, respectively, meaning their talent level. Liberty is not Ole Miss, so on and so forth. He has done a great job in terms of the perception, talking about stars, rankings, the public opinion about his recruiting. He has met expectations and maybe in some ways exceeded those, brought in what is supposed to be the greatest wide receiver class in Auburn history. It's just on paper right now, which is what I continue to wave the caution flag about. But what we're talking about is he has met those expectations. Both of your questions about what you want me to evaluate on, there's not been enough time yet to do that. We have played one season and he has had truly one full cycle. So you would say 1.5, really 1 1/3 recruiting cycles that have been completed to really ask the question and then give a honest answer about talent evaluation. But from what we've seen thus far, I think he meets expectations. Offensive scheme. It's hard to evaluate an offensive scheme when you are changing offensive schemes, essentially, because you're making a big change in offensive coordinators in your first year. Whether or not that is good or bad in your mind, because you're making a change. And obviously, if you're making a change, meaning someone was let go, such as Philip Montgomery was. And I can't remember if it was let go or if it was a mutual parting. Sometimes they verbalize it a certain way. So I would say that it's also not fair for me to say one way or the other whether I'm pleased with the offensive scheme. Now, this season would be a great year to kind of say, okay, supposedly Hugh wanted more control over that, has the ability to take more control over that. Now he's got his foundation set with the program and recruiting after this year. But to try to give you an answer on the talent evaluation piece, I would say, yes, he has met expectations. That doesn't mean that he is like outstandingly overperformed, met expectations. I would say on the offensive scheme, it's kind of a push situation at this moment because you're changing. Obviously, something wasn't right. And so to me, you always need to give credit where you look at something and say, okay, it's not working. We got to do something. So to me, you got to give him credit for that as well. All right, we'll break away from that talk for just a second. Looks like Bryant has said that Butler is up now, and that is the case. Auburn, as of 8:28, is currently in the lead of the national championship match for men's golf, NCAA men's golf out in Carlsbad. I almost said North Carolina, complete opposite, California. So for the second time today, I believe, because I believe they got off to an early lead and quickly went away. But for the first time, I think today, second time today, Auburn is in the lead as a team 3-2. Now, to give you some perspective of where we're at currently, Auburn is up by 3 in one match, 2 in one match. And that one we just talked about with J.M. Butler just took a lead in that match. They are down by 2 and 3 in the other ones that they're losing in. And that has waffled a little bit, meaning they have pushed it out to 4 and 3, 1 and 3. So I feel like those are probably secure for Florida State, but they definitely haven't increased like you thought they might. So there's still plenty of golf to be played. So don't count your chickens yet, but Auburn is in the lead as of 8:29, 8:30 Eastern time. Oh, okay. I'm glad. I felt like I gave a very roundabout answer to that. But I mean, that's truly what it is. Anybody that tells you that Hugh Freeze is absolutely the wrong decision or absolutely the right decision at this point is just being foolish. And I would say you need to really reevaluate. Do you know what you're talking about in this situation? We have gone through one full season and one and a third recruiting cycles with him. That's about it. Looks like I'll let y'all have your conversations about Alabama stuff in the chat, asking him about how the new coach feels. You're going to get them all stirred up and get them all in here tonight. But anyway, that would be my evaluation of Coach Hugh Freeze as of this point, if you're interested in that. What other topics, what other points of note are you interested in talking about? We'll continue to update on how the golf match is going throughout the stream. But if there's a topic that you'd like to discuss, if you'd like to call in today, don't be shy. Pop in here, say hello, and let us know what is on your mind tonight. I'm surprised no one's brought up basketball and in terms of Auburn basketball. We've had someone bring up some Alabama basketball stuff. It's not what we do here. What do you all think about the new addition of Miles Kelly since we last got together? And we just got a question, literally as if he knew I was going to talk about it. What are your thoughts on the new transfer to the basketball team? Does he seem like he's going to get decent playing time? My thoughts on this guy. I don't think this is initially the route that Bruce wanted to go in filling that last spot. But in terms of taking your time, maybe if you had some quote unquote misses, which everything about this is just speculation at this point, this is a pretty good miss. This is a guy with a ton of experience, lots of talent, it seems like, the ability to score. Maybe people will argue whether he scores enough. But what I like is he is adding to a group that will have no excuses in terms of experience, seniority, all of that stuff. And he's going to come. He is kind of taking an upgrade, even though he's coming from a Power 5 conference in Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech has historically had some good basketball programs up and down as of late. This is a step up for him currently. He's going to have a chance to compete for a SEC title and a national championship with Auburn, probably more readily than for Georgia Tech. Now, on the subject of his playing time, let's just walk through it for a second here. Let's talk about who the probable starters are. I think everyone knows J.P. Pegues was brought in to be the starting point guard, seeing as the other two left. So there's one spot. I think everyone saw enough out of Denver Jones, especially down the back half of the season, to know that he's going to be the starting 2-guard or 2 spot. I think everyone knows that the 3 spot is going to be filled by CBM and his very frustrating play for people that play against him. And, we obviously know about some, not attitude issues, I guess you could say attitude, but use of sportsmanship and stuff like that could be a little bit better, but you can't argue with his results out in the court. Number 4, a lot of people will expect to see Chaney Johnson fill in for Jalen Williams. And number 5, Janai Bream. So there's your expected starting 5. Behind them, you got Dylan Cardwell. That's going to be a pretty much one or the other situation. You brought in Hudson as a probable power forward behind him, meaning Chaney Johnson. You've got Chris Moore. You've got Ja'Kai Howard at guard, forward positions, depending on what lineup, how big he wants to go. So when I look around the room, and then Todd Pettiford, who probably will now have to play more point guard, you probably have to say the playing time is not going to be starting playing time, but you don't bring over a guy like that and not play him. So it will be a challenge for Bruce yet again to find playing time for all of these guys and ones that make them happy. But a lot of these guys are seniors, the majority of them, or at least upperclassmen, if they're true seniors or not. And hopefully they all realize that this is about winning the national championship and not about them. So playing time, I think, is not starting playing time for him, but you just never know. That's the great thing about sports. We talk about it all we want. You got to go out there and win the job and keep the job throughout the year. CJ is happy with the roster. I would say I am happy with it as well. I think preferably I would have saw another point guard being brought in, but I think it's hard to get a point guard to come to you that isn't wanting to be a backup of sorts. I do wish that we could have convinced a Trey Donaldson to stay and play one more year behind somebody and then taking the reins over himself. I think he is, of the two, Aiden and Trey, and I'm not just saying this because I'm being salty about Bam and all that, but I do think Trey is going to see the dividends pay off for him before Aiden. And I do think Aiden will get it together. But I was very disappointed by Trey deciding to leave. And I wish we could have convinced him to stay, because I think he really liked being here. CBM quickly rose to the top of my favorites with his play last year. And of course, there are some plays that we wish were not in his repertoire. But man, he knows how to get in people's heads, and he knows how to play super aggressively, almost with reckless abandon. It's a very similar style to a Katie Johnson. Very different players, very different builds, but it's hard to not say that there's some very similar stuff going on there. And when you had the two of them out there on the court together, at least defensively too, God, it was frustrating for teams. So yeah, I think having all of these guys back, add in these transfers and these freshmen to the mix, you see on paper, Auburn basketball's got the makings of yet another great team on paper. How great is the answer? There's the question that we're all looking for an answer for, and you won't be able to get that till we start playing. And I think you will get a much clearer picture of how good this team is early in non-conference play when we go to Maui and play teams like I believe UConn will be there, the champions. I think Baylor is there. No, maybe I could look that up for you all. But that's going to give us a humongous indication about how much this team is, how good they're going to be. So here's your teams: Auburn, Colorado, not a team to dismiss out of hand. Dayton, historically great. Iowa State, historically great. Memphis, historically great for the most part. Michigan State, North Carolina, and UConn. Auburn will get tested, and Auburn will have an opportunity to display how real they are or not. CJ asks, what is the story on a Darren Scott? Will he play? Yeah, I think a lot of people are forgetting about him. He was a very late addition to the roster last year, and kind of the way he was talked about, you might have thought he would have gotten more playing time this year. I think a lot of that is due to the rise in why he didn't get more playing time, how Jalen Williams just continued to step up, how Dylan took another step in his game, Janai just being Janai. And then Chaney showing up too. I think it's hard just to find spots for a power forward, which I believe he's listed at. And unfortunately, we still brought in some more. Janai stayed, Dylan stayed. Chaney looks ready to take over the spot of Jalen Williams. You brought in Hudson. So you kind of find yourself, unfortunately, I think and that'll get, we'll put that user in timeout because he just doesn't know how to behave himself. CJ was doing so well. Or unless, actually, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have put him in timeout, but oh well. Sorry about that. If I see comments like that, the typical ones like that from Bama fans, I have to get rid of them before they start stirring up in the things in the chat. So, well, hopefully, John was banned. Their comments have been removed. I didn't mean to ban him. Oops. That was John, not CJ. Yeah, John did that, not CJ. Okay, I think CJ's still here. Anyway, before we had those shenanigans happen, I would say that Darren is still very much a part of this team in the sense that he's being displayed on a lot of media and stuff like that. Like they just put out a video of him running a play. I would hope that he gets some playing time this year, significant playing time, but I'm not sure what is the reasoning other than we're just a very deep squad about why he didn't get more this year. I'd like to see it happen. There was a lot of his family members when we announced that he was coming that posted on our social media posts talking about how proud they were, how excited they were to see him play. And I hope that ends up happening for him in some way. I went away from the scores for the championship, and I was trying to make sure that we stay up to date on this. There we go. Got it back now. There is now a tie in that fifth matchup, the last matchup of the day, Butler and Clanton. And so we are back to a 2-2-1 tie across the board. If you need explanation for that, maybe I'll do that. Yeah, CJ, you did not get banned. It was weird. The Bama fans that come in here and act that way, we just let them go just off into the sunset. Because when you're here as it's odd enough that you're here as a fan of opposing, team anyway. And if you're just going to provide nothing that is constructive, productive, or meaningful to the conversation and just trying to stir up trouble, we're just going to mute you / move you off into the sunset. He was behaving for a little while, and he kind of skirted the line there for a little bit. So we just let him go. I thought it was you that I hit and not him. So I'm glad that didn't happen to you. 313 talking about the Maui Invitational. I think we could win all of those games, but if we want to stay in it with UConn, we're going to need to have great conditioning. I haven't really looked at UConn's roster outlook for the year, because frankly, I don't care, but I'll care more when we get closer to the game time if we end up seeing them. I do think we talked about some of those names, right? North Carolina is going to be a tough one. I'd say Iowa State's going to be a tough one. I'd say Dayton is probably a tough one as well. I think Auburn finds himself, at least perception-wise, in a position to say we are in the top half of that group at the Maui Invitational, which means that we should be in the running in the winner's bracket side of it. And maybe we're in a situation where it is UConn-Auburn. I'd love to see it. And if Auburn can walk out of there, even just competing against UConn for the title, because I can't remember if they give a trophy away or not for that, of the Maui Invitational, then that's a good sign, even if you don't beat UConn or whoever else is there. So this will be a good test. They could win them all, win most of those games, but it's going to be a tough field. Very, very tough field. UConn doesn't have the greatest roster, but their coaching conditioning is the best of the best. I don't know if I would say that. From what I remember, their roster was pretty dang good. And now some of that is because of conditioning and coaching, but I'd say the same thing about Bruce. Our conditioning is pretty dang good. Our coaching, for the most part, and I know some people will point out some things that they just don't know how to let go of because it's not the way they would coach. But he's pretty good at coaching and finding talent and putting them in the position to win. He's done it better than any other coach at Auburn. So, yeah. We shall see. We shall see how the matchups work out. All right. Golf update. Auburn and FSU are both pretty secure in their, this is 8:43. They are both pretty secure in their points they have control over. FSU is up by 3 in both of theirs. Auburn is up by 4 in the Koiven matchup, 3 in the Valdez matchup, and then the apparently decider of the two. Wow, what a bunch of pressure. J.M. Butler versus Clanton for the national championship. At this moment, they are only through 11. So saddle up, boys and girls. You started to feel a little bit of that, hey, this might go our way when we took that point a few holes ago, but saddle up or buckle up, to quote a certain Auburn coach from the past. It's going to be a wild ride to the finish. I do wish that the other matchups, part of me does, that they were a little bit closer, just to make things more interesting and not put so much pressure on this one matchup. Because I got to think, if I'm J.M. Butler, and I'm speaking just my own perceptions about this. I'm not saying this is how they think about it. I know that when you're an upperclassman, you already kind of expect to be the leader, to be the face of the program. But you got a guy like Koiven who's been here, has won that the Golfer of the Year award, has had quite the freshman campaign. He's getting all the attention mainly. You want to kind of show out and show that, hey, this is still not your team, but in a sense of you being a leader, it is your team. So when you couple that with the matchup, my matchup is the one that's going to determine everything. Boy, what What a lot of pressure. Definitely a nail biter. So an update, Butler had a penalty drop hazard. I have no clue what that means. Sounds bad, though. Unfortunately, and I just realized that my water is way over there and I can't get it. That's why you get set up earlier than I do. For those of you who don't know, I've been on the road the last couple of, well, actually for the last week. I'm back in studio tonight for the first time, got home a few hours before this. Stopped in Auburn today to do a little bit of reconnaissance / enjoyment of the, of the loveliest village on the plains. But I enjoyed the heck out of that hour or so being there and hanging out in Auburn and doing some scoping out. But I will probably, will be back in that setup at least another time this summer. We've got some family things that we're doing, aka I'm back. I was back at a helping out family, and so you don't be shocked if you see me in that setup again. But I plan to be here, and the expectation is for me to be in studio for the next week and a half at the very least. I will be going on vacation. What will be my last planned big vacation for the summer, even though the summer's just getting started. And I have got a lot to get to work on for this stuff for the rest of the summer to get ready for hopefully what's going to be a big year for Auburn athletics in general. So apparently we just had, let's see, he just holding a chip in. I'm guessing that sounds good. And it still appears tied on our leaderboard. But, Koiven is starting to pull away from Roberts. He is up 5 now. So we would love to see that. I love to see that those 2 points are secured. I feel much better about our situation. I was really worried with the first 2 matches getting into Florida State's territory early and staying there. And the fact that we have kind of done that ourselves is making me feel a lot better. WT says, I am missing that gorgeous green wall with the AU flag behind you. I know you are meaning that tongue in cheek. Thank you for trying to pretend that was a better setup than this. And I'm not saying this is the best setup in the world. I mean, I'm kind of fond of it, but I am one that is very much preferred to be in my home setting. I still don't have another one of my lights set back up, and some things are out of whack here. I'm surprised that our internet has kept up, because I'm talking a bunch of personal stuff right here until you guys give me something else you want to discuss. Our house, which is where E2C headquarters got hit by lightning and burned up our modem, and apparently my thing that I use to extend the internet. So we've got to figure that out and go from there. Koiven won with a chip in. Is that for 5 and 4? What does that mean? Does that mean he's won that one outright? Is that what that means? Holy crap. Holy mess. Does that mean we already are officially locked in on a point? Very, very interesting. Very interesting. This is starting to ramp up here. I'm getting really tense about this now. Oh man. See, this is one of those Wednesday night shows that is a little bit weird for me, because I usually get to sit back, relax, and just go with the flow here, but I'm having to pay attention to this at the same time. Part of me wants to stay live the whole time, but I can't. So that's what's going on in my head right now, in case you're wondering. The green wall was a minimalist dream. Believe it or not, it wasn't as minimalist as you think it was. Took a little bit of the backdrop was minimalist, but the rest of the setup had to be worked for a little while. All right, let's get back to some Auburn talk. What is on y'all's minds? What do you want to talk about? What questions, topics do you have, even if it's still about the golf match that's going on right now? Let me know. Would love to dive into anything, especially that we haven't touched on yet about Auburn-related sports or not. I did on our TikTok live today. We had a great question. By the way, if you're not following us on TikTok live, or TikTok in general, you're missing out. I know some of you have a distaste for that app, but hey, we're content creators. We got to be where we got to be. We did a live stream from outside Jordan-Hare, and you had that as a backdrop today. So you're missing out. If you're not over there, some of you that are over there know the deal. This is why you need to follow, subscribe everywhere you can. I'm talking on the podcast app. I'm talking on the YouTube, here, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. You missed out on a cool live stream chat today with the backdrop of Jordan-Hare. Anyway, I meant to say we had a great question about a student that's coming into Auburn, and he's coming in from New York to Auburn to go to school here. And he was asking, like, what did we recommend? And I asked him to show up tonight. And obviously, they always say they will. I'm not saying that like he didn't intend to, but he hasn't showed up yet. I would love to like ask him more about like what he likes and stuff like that, because I could go 1,000 different directions with my recommendations to have a great Auburn experience. Of course, I gave him the standards. Go to Mama Goldberg's, go to get a Tumor's Lemonade, walk around campus on a beautiful fall afternoon, explore some of the stuff off of campus, all of those things. And, of course, sports-related stuff too. But the Auburn experience is more than just sports, which is why we talk about a lot of that here. Mr. Brian, good to see you. I had a feeling we might see you today because I know you are a big golf fan. Thanks for checking in from Minnesota. Are we doing a post-round gold live stream? I don't know what that means. It sounds incredible. I don't know. I just got back home about an hour and change before we had to go live here. So I've got some things that I need to do if we win the championship. So I won't ever say never, but we're kind of doing something here for it. Now, since he's brought it up, let's do another update. I saw some of you post on there. Mr. J.M. Butler went back up by 1. Auburn is back in the lead of the match as a whole, 3-2, 3 matches to 2 matches. Reportedly, as I'm not an expert in this, Koiven has officially won his matchup without finishing it. Explain that one to me. I know there's an explanation for it, but it's just me as not a golf pro or expert here saying interesting. Valdez is up by 3. Butler's up by 1. And in the matches where, and this is all at 8:52, in the matches where FSU is up, they're up by 2 and 3, up by 2 in the 16th hole. So I would bet, trying to do math here, that person is very close to securing that win, up by 3 with 15 left, getting close. And those are with Baca and Gilbert. So some work to do for them, but I bet they'll hold on to that. Golf live stream, a post-round golf. So you now understand. I was like, a gold live stream. Was that like a paid live stream or something like that? I'll get some gold. I got you. He was up 5 holes with 4 to play. So if he was up by 5, but couldn't Koiven have just like tanked? So you just kind of conceded? Is that what it is? I don't know. I would have. I'm thankful we got the point. But to me, it seems like you would have just played it through just to be sure. But the kid showed out today. Had a very, 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 well, not very. I went way too very. He had a bit of a rough start, if I remember correctly, from watching while I was traveling. Not watching. I was listening. It was on the car. Wasn't watching. Brian says, do you need a quick match play primer? Well, we're only scheduled to be on for a few more minutes, but if you'll hop on and call in, I'd love to hear any perspective that you have about it as a golf fan. So if that's what you mean by that, hop on. We'll hang around for a little bit. I kind of do want to watch the ending myself if it does end up that way. Here's one of the disappointments. And had my circumstances this week been a little bit different and I could have planned a little bit out in the future more, not that I've ever had to plan around golf that much, I would have stayed where I was for maybe another night to be able, if they win, if is a big if, this championship, to see tumors be rolled and document that for you guys and then wait for them to come back tomorrow. but I had to get back home here. It's been a while. So it's just one of those things that just didn't work out this time. All right, there he is. I asked him to pop on from the Great White North. Mr. Fulcher, take us to school, sir.
You want to go to school, golf school?
Let's go to golf school right now.
All right. So here's how match play works.
Okay.
Each hole, you win each hole. You win or lose a hole.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if I make a 4 and you make a 3, you win the hole. Okay. It doesn't matter if I make a 10 and you make a 9, you win the hole. So the number of strokes ahead doesn't matter. It's how many holes ahead you are.
Which is why it's not called stroke play. Now I'm with you.
It's match play. So he was ahead 5 holes. There were only 4 holes left, so it was mathematically impossible for the Florida State player to beat him. So
that's much simpler than I thought it would be.
It really is. So, yeah.
Well,
so
I'm thankful we got the point, but I guess the completionist in me kind of wants them to play it through. Does that make me weird?
If you were the guy who was ahead, it'd be great to keep playing. If you're the guy who just lost, and I've been in both positions in my life, and when you're the guy who loses, you're like, where's the exit? I want out of here, right? It just doesn't matter anymore. So but no, it's looking. There's a lot of orange on or not a lot, but there's more orange than crimson on the board. And as somebody who traveled to the Rose Bowl and watched Florida State beat us, I'm enjoying this a lot right now. So
I am as well. I'm very cautiously starting to lift the banner up.
We don't do that. I mean, I felt that way in the second quarter at the Rose Bowl until they faked that punt. So we don't do that, Kyle. We do not do that.
We do not do that. Not in California.
We do not do that. But no, we're we're playing well. And this is just I know it's a total niche sport. I'm a huge golf guy. I think I spent my birthday in November at St. Andrews. I'm a golf nut. This is just so exciting for me to see Auburn doing this because we have Jason Duffner, major champion who went to Auburn, and unfortunately Bama had a couple national championships a couple years ago. So it just is really great for our program. I'm super excited about where we're going here.
What a great golf year in general for Auburn with the way women's got started and they went to the national championship rounds too. I mean, if you had on your bingo card this year that men's and women's golf was going to be leading the way for sports this year, let me figure out what you're doing right.
You would have it on your bingo card in that I can't remember their names, which is really disappointing to myself right now, but I know a couple of our players played really well in their respective U.S. amateurs last year, the end of last fall. So, just super excited about where this program is. And, it's hard to say where they're going when they're maybe an hour away from winning a national championship. How do you go any better than that? Right.
Right.
Just super. Yeah.
How about this Coyven kid? How about him?
He's impressive. He's got a big future ahead of him. But yeah, I mean, just in any sport right now, when you have success in this era of nil and transfer portal and all this stuff, to have success just seems hard. To have team success, it's probably a great conversation for another day, but to have team success seems harder and harder when everyone is so about the individual right now.
It's nice.
I'm super impressed. Yeah. I mean, even if this turns and doesn't go our way, I'm super impressed with where this program's at. So anyway, but I wanted so I just wanted to give you the quick little match play primer just because.
Well, you did a great job of
it. It can be confusing. Yeah.
I definitely sometimes when I'm not as comfortable with the sport in terms of my knowledge of it, I always assume it's much more complicated than it actually is sometimes.
It's pretty simple. Maybe you discussed this earlier. Did you have a good birthday?
I did have a great birthday. I think you've known this. I've been on the road helping out with some family. So I got to spend it with family, which is sometimes the best way to spend that. And checked out for a little bit from some of the job stuff here for a little bit. So that's always good in some ways.
Is it often that it falls on Memorial Day?
Yes. Okay. Every 7 years, I think, technically.
I suppose that'd be the math. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably not exactly 7 every year, but close enough, 6 to 7. It's really weird because in one sense, people are supposedly off for your birthday, but then people make plans. So it's almost like I think I prefer like my birthday to fall on the Sunday before Memorial Day, because people don't have plans made, meaning my family, because I like to get together with family and hang out and all that kind of stuff. So
no, that makes sense. The closest my birthday comes to a holiday is every 6 or 7 years. It's the Iron Bowl day, and that's a holiday in my world. So
how lucky are you? That's
2013. Awesome. 2013 was my 40th birthday. There'll never be a better one.
Oh man. You know, not to make this a morbid one, but my late father, the last Iron Bowl he ever saw was the Kick Six, and the last Georgia game he ever saw was the Prayer and Jordan Hare. So in his mind, not that was the most important thing to him, no, in his mind, but I'm Auburn never fell below those heights.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, but I'm guessing after faith and family, that's a pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Whatever place that is, yeah, exactly.
It's pretty good. I mean, yeah. Not to be morbid about it, but he saw every game living of the 2014 season until the Georgia game.
So. Kyle, I manage a cemetery. I don't think about being morbid, so we're good. But anyway, my man, enjoy, for people who are watching golf, enjoy the next 40 minutes or so, because this is pretty special.
So. It's going to go down to the wire, but I'm enjoying the heck out of it.
All right, War Eagle.
War Eagle. Great to hear from Mr. Brian. Thanks for calling in. You know what? We'll hang around for a few more minutes here. If you've got any other comments, questions, topics we haven't hit yet, get them in now. If you want to get in on the phone line, I'll leave it open for another few minutes, but we'll close it down in just a second. So don't hesitate if you're someone that would like to give it a shot. And let me encourage you. A lot of people that I know tune into the show, and I know it's intimidating to call in. You saw 2 examples of how it's done tonight. You can be on camera or off camera. You make the choice when you hit the call in button here on YouTube, and give it a shot. Just pop in, say hello, get the nerves knocked off a little bit. But we'd love to hear some of you regulars here. We'd love to hear some of your voices, see some of your smiling faces. This show and this night is about Auburn family. And I would love it if I spent the majority of the time not even talking, and it being about you guys and your perspectives and things like that, which is why I talk about what y'all's comments and your topics on. But don't be afraid. So if you want to take advantage of it in the next few minutes, that would be a great time, because we're not going to stay on too much longer, because I want to just focus in on the rest of the match. With that being said, let me give you some reminders while you're thinking about final topics, questions, comments. Reminders, our next scheduled is the key term there. Things always happen, meaning that could change, obviously, or there could be more. Scheduled live stream is going to be this Sunday, 9 Eastern time, the Auburn Experience with Austin and myself. Do not miss it. It'll be episode 79. Kyle, you have the cue card ready, I believe. I do. Don't miss that at 9 Eastern time this Sunday. We will talk about sports. We will talk about Auburn culture. We will talk about Auburn family. It's all about Auburn, everything orange and blue. It's the banner show of everything we do. Do not miss it. We'll have a great time. We will most assuredly, no matter how this works out, be talking about what we are all watching live as of this moment at 9:02 on a p.m. on a Eastern Standard Time on May 29th. Talking about that, plenty of other things. We were off last week, so we'll have plenty to catch up on. Don't miss that. We do TikTok lives almost every weekday. Lunchtime, it kind of varies depending on what your lunchtime is and when I'm available to do it. So the best thing I can tell you is to be subscribed there, following there, so you don't miss out on those. We had a good one today on campus. This is another reason why I tell you all, you'll need to be following everywhere. It was a lot of people were loving that they could see Jordan Hare in the background. Follow us, subscribe everywhere. Big push for you guys. I'd love to see you subscribe to our audio podcast. I know a lot of you consume the podcast because a lot of them are recorded live. Not a lot. Some of them are recorded live here on YouTube. But if you have not, do that. That is a huge help. We want to continue to build up that audio podcast. And sometimes you get some special things there too. So it's a good thing to go ahead and put that up there. Let's see here. Baca not going down easy is what Brian just gave us an update on. So let me give you guys the update. So we are at 9:04. I'm saying this because those people who watch the replay are like, no, it didn't happen that way. We're at 9:04 Eastern time on May 29th. Auburn is still up 3-2 in match play in the national championship versus Florida State. It is becoming slightly more favorable for Auburn. They have the lead, but the situation is becoming slightly more favorable to recap, Coyvin has already won outright his match. So that is already a point on the board for Auburn. Valdez is up 3 on 14 holes on, I'm not going to pronounce his name, but up 3. And that's our guy. And then our other guy, Butler, is up by 1 through 12. That's probably going to be the pivotal match. But Baca is up by 1 now, or excuse me, down by 1 now in his, where he was down by 3 at one point. And also Gilbert has knocked it down from a 4 lead that was on him to a 2 lead. So I don't know the math there, and maybe someone like Brian can even keep us a little bit more informed as long as we're on here. But it seems like Auburn's in a very good position right now to win this national championship. It is not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. But if you've been following throughout the day, when we began match play, you saw Auburn take a very quick lead when it first started. Florida State took a lead, and I got a little bit worried there for a while because we had a lot of leads for Florida State and just some ties not in Auburn. Obviously, Auburn is a tie, and it wasn't in their favor. And then it's like a switch flipped. And I remember watching it before we went live downstairs, and I don't know if it was the way that TV was building the narrative, but as you watched it, it almost felt like they were showing Florida State fall apart and Auburn take advantage of that across multiple of the matches of the individual matches. So it's fun to watch right now. Butler had a huge par putt to stay 1 up. All going to come down to Butler, it feels like, and he has 1 up. Big test of nerves. He just passed with a par putt. Whew. I'm not even out there, and I'm nervous. So I think it's one of those things I would love in a perfect world to stay live, but I think this one's we're only through 12. So we will probably, I think, call it there. And for posterity's sake, as we exit, Auburn is still up 3-2, and that's all that happened from this point. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight, hanging out with me, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Remember, Sunday night live stream at 9 Eastern time. We'll do this again next Wednesday at 8 Eastern time. And be sure you are subscribed here. If you are following everywhere on social media, subscribing to the podcast. And if you would like to consider helping support our content, you can join the Conquer Club by hitting the join button here on YouTube, or the best way to do it is go to patreon.com/E2C Network. $1 a month gets you in the door. It helps keep the lights on here at E2C Network. Thank you all to our Conquer Club members who have been here, like Brian, like Bryant. Who else was here? WT. So many others I probably have missed that are, I think, through, and I can't remember who all is on YouTube is, but I see some of y'all's icons on there. But thank you guys so much for being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Good luck to the boys. Y'all enjoy it. And War Eagle.